Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Cold Hard Sports Talk with your hosts, Matty B and Woodsy.
Alrighty, we are here with our guest today, former 10th overall pick in the NHL, former Stanley Cup champion, Norm Lacombe. Now, Norm, great to have you on. Obviously, you played on like one of the Oilers' legendary teams back in the 80s. High pick in the NHL draft. It's definitely an honor to have you on and get to talk to you.
Well, thank you. Pleasure to be on, and should have been last week. Sorry.
No worries there. No worries there. We had a little bit of scheduling mishaps here getting it set up. But it just makes it sweeter now that it happens, right?
That's right.
Alrighty, we're gonna dive right in. Start talking about your career. First thing that kind of jumps out, looking back on your career, you were drafted number 5 overall to the QMJHL, but you never ended up playing any junior A or major junior. You went straight from major AAA, where you put up some very good numbers, 95 points in 47 games over in Quebec, to then playing at the University of New Hampshire in the NCAA. So what led you to going the college route over like the major junior?
Wow, that's some old stats. Did I get that many points? God, I should have gave Scotty Bowman some shit about just not putting me in a power play. But I certainly like to tell this story. I was the first to go to college and get drafted in the NHL in the first round. I mean, that's nobody did it back then. Certainly not a high pick. I even told the Q, I'm not going, so don't draft me. Like, I honestly told them, don't draft me. I'm not going. And then they still picked me 5th overall. The Shawinigan Cataract, the Shawinigan. So back then there was a lot of, I wanted to play in the NHL, and people were like, well, you don't go to college. You want to play in the NHL? Nobody did it. So it was a lot of pressure. It was a lot of didn't know. My parents didn't know. I mean, we didn't know. Lots going against the grain, and but I believed in you're good enough. You're going to make it, no matter where. So I stuck to my guns and went there, and I had a great time.
What
was it a matter? Was it a matter of like wanting to go get an education as opposed to playing at like the junior level? Was it kind of a, hey, I want to go to college and get an education?
Absolutely. That's what it was. I mean, another thing, I was the youngest player I was 16 when I went to college. I think Craig Simpson and I believe, were about really like a month apart, like the youngest players to go to college in the States. So it was for me getting an education. Making it in hockey is obviously the odds are small, and so it was education was a factor.
And now, not to date you or anything, but was university hockey back in like the early 80s different from like the game we see today? Like we've seen like some of these schools, and like we've talked to some like D1 college players now who are playing everywhere from like Alaska to Arizona and having these like big party schools. Was it that same kind of atmosphere back in the 80s?
Absolutely. Here's a fun story. I remember my parents taking me. Again, I was 16, right? So they took me, and one of my one of Quebec buddy came on a scholarship as well. He was a bit older, and we were roommates. Anyway, so make a long story short, from Montreal to UNH is about 5 hours to New Hampshire. So they took me in a motorhome. So my dad took me, and can you just imagine, it's the first weekend of school. So he parked in a parking lot by the dorm. And I remember now, I mean, him telling me, like, now I'm a dad, I got 4 kids, and I didn't understand, but he got out the next morning and there was beer. He couldn't even walk. There was beer cans. And he's leaving his 16-year-old son, okay, see you later, right? So that was, that was certainly a big step. And yeah, no, the partying is certainly was, I don't think it's changed, and probably worse now. I don't know, who knows? I wouldn't know now, so sorry.
But then, so you spent 2 years at the University of New Hampshire, and then you made your pro hockey debut with the Rochester Americans, affiliate with the Buffalo Sabres, who drafted you 10th overall. First of all, just going back to draft day, going top 10 pick, just leading up to it, like, what were your expectations going into the draft? And like I'm sure but for our listeners, there was some big legendary names in that draft: Steve Yzerman, Pat LaFontaine, Cam Neely, Dominic Hasek. Like, you were in a class with some of the greatest players to ever play the game. Like, were you aware, like, even at the time, that there were some of these future all-time greats getting drafted with you?
Well, I mean, it's hard to tell. I mean, it's hard to tell that you draft, but certainly, yeah, there was, LaFontaine was in Quebec, because that's where I was from, and played for, I think, where did he play? The Hall Olympics, I believe, or I mean, he was just, on fire. So the other ones I didn't know as well. I knew Mario, but Mario was the next. I mean, I played against Mario growing up. That's probably why I made it. I had to chase him around everywhere. But no, there was some good names. I mean, Cam Neely, I mean, probably one of my favorite players. I didn't know until, right? I mean, until you start playing against them, and how good they are. And Steve Yzerman, man, what a legend, So.
And that year, Buffalo was kind of loaded up with early picks. You were one of 3 guys they got in the first round. What were your immediate thoughts of getting drafted by Buffalo?
Well, I was excited. There was, Scotty Bowman was quite a popular name in Montreal. Being from Montreal, being drafted by Scotty, especially. I mean, obviously it's a dream come true, being drafted in the NHL. So I guess you don't get picky with where you go, but Scotty Bowman was. A little more exciting. Absolutely. The draft was in Montreal, was in my hometown. So that was fun as well. So lots of good memories.
Any of your big draft night celebrations with your friends there after becoming a top 10 pick in the NHL?
Here we go. Here we go. Yeah, no, it was certainly, time to remember. Absolutely.
So then going into it, you're playing in the NHL in the early 80s. You spent 1 season down with Rochester, sort of getting equipped to the program. And then you spent the next couple seasons splitting your time between Buffalo and Rochester. Just any memories from that time, like dipping your foot into the NHL in, an era where guys are lighting the roof off the place, so many, playing against the legendary Islanders teams. The Oilers just starting to find their stride there. And now you're finding your feet in the NHL playing against some of these greatest teams of all time.
Well, I mean, certainly. I mean, certainly you don't think when you're 18, you don't think that way. I mean, you just want to make it, right? So again, I couldn't go back to college or go back to juniors. Now I'm, youngest player to play in the minors. I was 18. I mean, that's another thing that usually you got to be 20, right, when you're done juniors. So I went to Rochester and played, which would be the same as it's like Red Deer, Edmonton, right? It's an hour. You get called up. The farm team's right there. So lots of there's lots of Yvon Lambert was a player coach. Back then, Yvon was like an idol of mine watching Montreal Canadiens. So he played another year and helped coached, and was, he was sitting right next to me. So I remember that quite well. So, lots of neat things. So.
Did you have like a welcome to the pros moment, whether it was in the NHL or the AHL? Was there a moment that sticks out, which is like, holy crap, I'm actually here?
God, yeah. Is there any moments? I mean, certainly the moment you sign. I mean, the moment you get drafted is and you realize that, okay, well, this is it, right? This is real. And then when you sign your first pro contract is another exciting moment. Is when you start believing, okay, I'm there, right? So now you try to make the team, right? So those are key moments for sure.
Do you remember your first NHL game and like who it was against? Do you remember any details about your first game?
This is a good story actually. Talk about Scotty Bowman. He was certainly, he's a Hall of Famer, but he was not the most social dealing with players back. I mean, back then some of the stories, my God, if they did that today, they'd get arrested. I mean, so I started with Rochester, and then I after a month, I can't remember exact time, but I got called up to play against Montreal in Buffalo. And I'm like, God, my hometown, great. So I'm calling my parents, say I'm playing, tomorrow night. And so they come. And so I'm driving up to the Buffalo Sabres, right? The auditorium, it was called. So I got my bag, my sticks. I'm walking in, Scotty Bowman. I'm walking by his office and he turns around and says, "Kid, come on in." So I go in his office and he looks at me. Well, first of all, he never looks at you. He looks to the side and he's like, "Yeah, you're not playing tonight. Just go back."
Oh no.
And I'm like, I mean, what are you going to say? Like, what do you say? And I'm like, so I turn around and I leave, and now I'm like, there's no cell phone back then. I've got away from my parents. I mean, this is right, 1982, 83. Now I got away from my parents. Oh, sorry, Dad, I'm not playing. Right? So, and then so that happened a couple times, and then it's all a mental game, right? So after the third time I walk in, okay, well, F you, what are you gonna do to me now, right? So I go, yeah, you're playing, okay, great, F you, right? You go get ready. Right? And honestly, I don't even remember who I played against the first game, but that's how the evolution was for me to get into my first game. I tell a lot of these young, draft picks, now with my training, I trained a lot of, top picks and tell them about the mental aspect. I mean, it's a mind game. I mean, hockey's a mind game. So if you survive the mind game, especially back then, you can succeed for sure.
So I wanted to ask about a couple of these. There's some big names on that Buffalo Sabres team that you were playing on at the beginning of your career. Dave Andrechuk for one, Phil Housley, Gilbert Perreault. In net, you had Tom Barrasso. What was it like just practicing and training with some of these guys on that Sabres team?
Well, it was great. I mean, Gilbert Perreault was one of my idols. I mean, Guy Lafleur and Gilbert Perreault, and I mean, it was amazing. It was Gilbert's last year, and my first training camp, and he took me out, for first day for. I mean, here's a fun story. I mean, training camp, first day training camp. So I'm playing with Gilbert, and it's all you do is scrimmage, and it's reds were colored. It's red against green, and I'm colorblind, and I'm fucking nervous, and I'm on the bench, and Gilbert, and I'm passing to the other team. They're all the same. It all looks the same. And so I'm getting the bench, and Gilbert, he's talking to me in French. He goes, "Kid, relax. I go, "Fuck, Gilbert, I can't tell the colors." And he's like, I go, "No, I'm colorblind." He goes, so he fucking jumps on the ice and everything stops. And he points in the stand. Scotty Bowman is watching and come down. And now I'm watching this and I'm like, oh God, I can see what's going on, right? So the play stops and the trainers bring out, like white jerseys. was my first. So Gilbert was, as classy as a good player he was, watching him, but great, great teammates. There you go. So helped me
And
out.
and the Buffalo Sabres never used red and green jerseys in the same game again. Right?
That was my first day. There you
go. So moving forward in your career a little bit, you ended up getting shipped from Buffalo to the Edmonton Oilers, and this trade happened in March of 1987. So you're getting mid to late 80s Edmonton Oilers. That's still Gretzky, Messier, Curry, Esa Tikkanen, Glenn Anderson, the whole lot. What's your reaction to being told that that's where you're getting traded to?
Well, I mean, lots of excitement, and I'm never going to play there, right? So I'm like, there's lots of emotions going on. How am I going to, right? I mean, how am I going to make this team, right? So so the other thing is, when I got traded there, I had a one-way contract. After 40 games, I had a one-way contract. So I played 39 games in Buffalo, and they sat me for a few weeks, and I knew something was happening. So I get traded, obviously, to the Oilers. So I need one more game, right, for a one-way for the next 2 years. So I get there. So first thing you got to go see Glenn Sather in his office. So I mean, think about that. That's intimidating, right? So I go in there, and he's got my contract on his desk, and he's smoking a cigar, and he goes, "Here, I want you to read what's on the board there. It's whatever, motivational poems," and I'm reading that, and he's looking through my contract, and I got bonuses every playoff round, because in Buffalo we never made playoffs, or if we did, then there was a big deal, right? So he's like, we're gonna have to change that. We only give one bonus when you win the cup. And I'm like, I mean, think about it. I'm intimidating. I'm scared, and I said, well, I worked pretty hard for this contract. I don't want to change it. Plus, I should be calling my agent. He says, okay, let's go wait in the hallway. And so I go in the hallway, and he brings me an airline ticket to Cape Breton, to the farm team. And I'm like, oh God. And I'm like, I should have just shut up. So I go down, and I played really well. I forget how many games, but not many. And I get called up. And we're in New Jersey. I remember this. I mean, we're in New Jersey, and I'm playing. I'm like, God, that's my 40th game, right? So and he goes, and he brings me to the side before the warm up, and he goes, good luck. And he goes, I remember this, and he goes, that's the type of player I want. You stood up for yourself in my office. He goes, welcome aboard. Good luck. And I'm like, okay, thanks. I was scared,
I wanted to ask too, just a little bit, your time in that little stint in the minors with the Nova Scotia Oilers.
Yes.
Now, hockey out in Nova Scotia isn't something we see a ton of outside of Mooseheads. So just what was that little stretch of games like, and what was it like playing hockey in Nova Scotia?
It's wonderful. I mean, growing up in Montreal, we used to go there on holidays. So I was familiar with it's a beautiful country. I mean, it's the Nova Scotia where the team played. It was Cape Breton was, there's a street, the downtown was like, I think it's the most bars per capita in Canada. I mean, it's bars after bars after bars. So for a player to play the minors was a fun place, near the ocean as well. So it was, fans are great, it's a big team in town, and so it was a lot of fun for sure.
How intense were the fans there?
Intense. Very passionate about hockey, but they're the slowest driver Period. God, they're slow there. Nobody's in a rush.
That doesn't surprise me about the Maritimes whatsoever, though.
Well, there can't be in a rush. That's for sure.
Yeah, you weren't kidding when you said you had a good stretch there. Just going off your elite prospects here, 8 points in 10 games while you're down. So doing a pretty darn good job of earning your way back on to a pretty stacked roster.
Yeah, no, then I, the other part with the Oilers when I first got there, they, you walk in the room, you mentioned all these names. I mean, half of them are Hall of Famers, and I remember this as well. The first player that came to say hi to me was Mark Messier. He walked across the room and shook my hand. He goes, "Welcome aboard. Whatever you need, you let me know." I mean, think about a new player walking into a room. I like to tell that story to young upcoming guy. You want to be a leader? Well, there's a leader. It makes you feel part of the team. And I was really a nobody, and he made me feel a big part of the team. So I understood the more I stayed there, why the team won so much, and they all cared about each other first and team first, and they showed by the actions for sure.
At what
Were
point?
you almost a little like starstruck, almost walking into that room and seeing all these guys, and you're like, "Holy crap!" Like, did you kind of have one of those starstruck moments?
Well, absolutely. You're absolutely, and then but they made you feel so welcome that you after a while they're just regular guys. Right? Yeah, there's obviously Hall of Famers, but they're regular guys, and just had lots of fun, especially when you win. Lots of fun.
Now, everyone's seen in the documentaries and various different things the looks at how Michael Jordan was in his career, how Tom Brady is in the NFL. You're playing with pretty much the undisputed greatest of all time. What was Gretz like? Just his work ethic, what he asked of his teammates in the locker room and on the ice.
Well, Gretz is. I've been lucky. I could say I played with the greatest player in the world. I played against him. I played with him, and the second best player for me was Mario. But Gretz, he was a quiet leader. Quiet. Messier was vocal. Gretz was just led by example, and he was, he's probably a better person. Better person, and wow, it's pretty hard to be a better hockey player, but he was as good a person. Same thing. He would, little stuff like ride to the airport. For example, when you go on the road, he'd pick me up. He had a limo. He'd pick me up. I live downtown, and okay, we have lunch. Come over. So they really made you feel welcome, right? So that part was great. The other part is talk about the hardest worker. At practice, obviously I was known for training and going to gym and certainly he was not, he didn't go pump weights. But he would ride the bike. He was one of the hardest workers at practice. That's another attribute that's why he was so good.
And I want to ask too, with Maddie B and I both being from Edmonton ourselves, and you being a legendary Oiler, you played 2.5 seasons here, went on, spent some time in Philly, spent a good couple of years in the Czech, but now you're back in sort of the Edmonton area. What was it that kind of made this your full-time home after you were done with the Oilers?
Well, my wife was from here, and was, it was just a great place. Certainly my best memories were here, when you win and you make lots of friends, and I enjoy the country, and raising kids is a safe place to play, or safe place, to raise kids. And That was why. That was the, sometimes when it was minus 30, I started second guessing myself. But we, that was a big reason why, being from Montreal, people are like, why didn't you go back to Montreal? I'm not really, downtown, type of guy, and just enjoyed the, the outdoors, and that was mostly why. Yeah.
So now I wanted to get into we've had a few NHLers on before who we've been lucky enough to talk to. We've never had a Stanley Cup champion on before. So I just want to talk for a bit about those playoffs there in '88. You were coming off a good year there. What was it about that team that was different from the year before, the year after? What made that team the team that won the Stanley Cup in your days with the Oilers?
Yeah, that was, what a team. Especially I get older now, I look back and I look at the picture and the players that were on that team. Unbelievable. Some will say it's probably the best team ever. I have to say yes, but I was that team. But it was a great balance of. I'm probably watching. You're probably watching the game right now. The McDavid and Draisaitl. Yeah, we had the undisputed best player in the world, Gretzky. Messier, was 1B in a different, certainly different style of player, but as a leader and physical. And the other thing is great, just great team guy, goaltending. Grant Fuhr, we had Billy Radford. As think about it as a backup.
Not a bad guy to have sitting on the bench.
Deep team, that played. Everyone played all the four lines. Just great chemistry. We didn't finish that year. Calgary finished first. They won the President's Trophy. We swept them in the first round. We happened to be rolling going to the playoffs, and just kept rolling. So, it's hard to pinpoint one thing. It's a mixture of great leadership, great goaltending. Everybody was healthy going in, right? So we didn't have. I know Messier was hurt a month prior, and then he got healthy. Glenn Sather as a coach, was probably for me it was my best coach ever. He was a great motivator. John Muckler, he knew Sather knew how to push buttons. To talk about a story right before the playoffs, this certainly has something to do with it. And I don't tell many people this story, but we're in before practice, and we're not playing well. It's about a month before the playoffs, and then Sather comes in and starts challenging guys one after another. Messier, and he goes on. He goes to Gretz, and Gretz sits like 3 players down from me. And he goes, Gretz. He goes, he says, I wonder if you got the heart to play anymore. He says, I don't know. And I said, oh my God, what did he just say that? And I got my head down. He goes, and then Gretzky stood up and he goes, what did you say? He goes, I said, I don't know if you got the heart to play anymore. And he goes, and then everything stopped. He says, you're effing challenging me. And then that was it, right? We didn't even have to practice. I was in my gear to go for after practice. And Gretz went to street clothes and bolted out and left. And I'm like, does this really happen? And he challenged the best player in the world. But he was able, with the respect that he had, and from Gretzky to him from, and next thing you know, look at the Gretzky stats after, not there, they're probably better than, he scored like 3 goals the next game. And then we just went on like unbelievable. I mean, so he challenged the best player. He played better, and we all played better, right? So, great story for me. I'll never forget it.
Well, that year in the playoffs, Gretzky had 12 goals, 31 assists, 43 points in 19 games. So it worked.
He did okay.
Yeah.
The best goal ever. It was the first game. Best goal for me ever in history. Playoffs or no playoffs. I don't know if it just happened. What was it? April. They just showed it on a few weeks ago, April 21st, when we played first game in Calgary, and it was an overtime shorthanded. You might have probably Messier got a penalty, and Gretzky came down the wing and top corner. That was it. They were done. Yeah, after that game, we swept them. So.
Now, I wanted to ask, because the 1988 Stanley Cup Finals has one of the most unique occurrences in NHL history. Matty B, do you know what I'm talking about here?
I think I do.
The fog game.
It has a double meaning, but absolutely.
Yeah. So for anyone who doesn't know, in the 88 Cup Finals, Game 4, you're up 3-0 in the series, on your way hopefully to a sweep. Game's tied at 3 apiece, and then a fog starts rolling into the ice, and with 3 minutes left in the second period, game tied at 3, Stanley Cup on the line. The game gets delayed, and they call it a day, and they finish that game on a different date. So were you just kind of like Matt, you show up to the arena that day, like, we win this one, I get the ring. We're taking Stanley home. Right. And then you go home because of a little bit of fog rolling in.
It's blackout. That's unreal. I mean, like I said, I had a double meeting. My mother was dying from cancer. I mean, so we were able to get her to the game from Montreal she was feeling well enough to get her there. And, and then the game gets canceled, right? So I mean, it was, so she wasn't able. She obviously wasn't able to come to Edmonton, but I mean, I don't know. Did that ever happen anywhere else? Probably not. I mean, we replayed the game in Edmonton. There you go. What an old bar. That was one of the best rinks to play in. Oh God. At least a couple hundred seats. You couldn't see the whole rink, and it was just the old Chicago barn and the Boston barn is a great places to play.
So now I want to ask a little bit about the fans here in Edmonton, because Matty B and I know growing up here just how insane Oilers fans can be. We've seen just in our lifetimes on the 2006 playoff run, and then a couple years ago when the Oilers made the playoffs for the first time in a decade. And like when they win games, there's people dancing in the streets down Jasper. There's people climbing the lampposts on White Ave. Just like the city is truly insane whenever the Oilers have success. You were in the city when you brought home a Stanley Cup. How insane were those fans?
Well, I mean, it's hard to explain. I mean, but I mean, you can't really explain it in words. I mean, and the thing is, as a player, you're experiencing this whole thing for me for the first time. So it was unbelievable. I mean, you're right. I mean, the fans, and it's a small town, and everywhere you go, I mean, I guess it's a good thing when you win because they know you. If you don't, it's a little different. But I mean, it's hard to explain. I mean, how crazy they were. But I mean, if you mentioned the 2006, or was it the 2006 run? Or they? Yeah. I mean, I went to a few games, and that was unbelievable. I mean, they were just. I've never seen a building that loud. I mean, I'm sure it was probably the same in '88, but when you're playing, you don't focus on as much on that. You focus on what you got to do. But the 2006 run was unreal.
I feel like that really spoiled myself as a hockey fan because being like I'd be about 7-8 years old at the time. My first really time like getting into hockey and like realizing how like big this could be. Oilers go on this run to the finals. I'm like, man, it's gonna be like this every year. And then it took us a long time to ever be good again. So I feel like that kind of got my hopes up as like a young kid early, that the Oilers couldn't back up for a while. The next thing I want to ask is, we've heard our fair share of championship stories. We've heard that, the WHL championship and the ECHL championship are both confirmed to float. We've heard the story of people having little parts like a stick that broke off the trophy for the Ontario Junior A. We've heard about the AJHL championship. You're able to unscrew it and like write your name on the inside, then screw it back together. But do you have any stories about the holy grail of hockey that you can share with us?
Well, there's one for sure. I mean, the year we won, it was the first before we got the cup. They on the ice, that team picture, the fun team picture, we started that.
Yeah.
I mean, Gretzky wanted it, and now everyone does it every year. So that's the first part. The other part is, yeah. So we had a parade the next morning, not the next morning after the win, but in a few days, and there was a party at one of the players' house. The Stanley Cup got run over. We had couches in the streets, and they got run over by a car. I mean, I'm not making this stuff up. So the next morning, we have the parade. So we're standing behind, we're waiting at City Hall, and the bus is there, and there's no cup. And Messier is not there, Gretzky's not there. I think Kevin Lowe as well. And Sather's like, where the F, where are those guys? Where's the cup? So they took it to a body shop, friend of theirs, who fix it a bit. So then they come in, and then also those three come walking to the bus and their shades on, and Messier all in black leather everywhere, and then that stupid smile of his, and then Sather found out, and then so that was the last year that there was the real cup. After that, it was a replica. So there you go. There's the story.
Oh, see, I didn't know the replica thing.
Yeah, that was because of us. They ran over. Oh, jeez.
Every rule exists because of someone, and now you get to say that you're the reason people don't get to take the real Stanley Cup home.
Right, that's right. Yeah.
Speaking of taking the Stanley Cup home, we all know the players get their day with the cup.
Yes.
What did you do for your day with the cup?
We had the family had a little. It's a small town where I live in Montreal, so in Pierrefonds, and we had we brought it to the baseball field and had a little fun day with it, and that was it. All the kids and lots of people came to see it, and that's what we did. That's what I did with it. So it was a beautiful day as well. So it was worked out well.
Being from a small town like that in Quebec, like it must be very like, you must have been like the guy there when you came back with the cup. The whole town would have showed up. Hey, like, was that kind of what it was like?
Yeah. Those people you don't know. Yes. I mean, people are excited, to see the cup and someone from their small town, right? So it was absolutely. I mean, like anywhere else, I guess. So it was a good time. Lots of good memories.
So then next season, the next season, you're playing, and you get shipped off to Philadelphia. So now I know Matty B, big Flyers guy, lifelong Flyers fan. I know he's dying to hear any stories from your days in Philly.
Well, first off, do you remember getting traded, and what it was like to get traded from this great Oilers team, go to this Flyers team that had kind of been average for a while?
Yeah, the Flyers it wasn't you're right, it wasn't. We had a rough time there, then didn't make the playoffs, and I mean, as a player, you want to play. So they I mean, I'm not certainly not one to dictate my trades as a role player. So they said, okay, well, the trade happened, and I I mean, Bobby Clark was the GM. We had the team. Yeah, the team was a little bit. I'm not going to say turmoil, but it was struggling, and there was some good players. You know, Rick Tocchet. And, I mean, Tim Kerr was still there. Mark Howe. I mean, he was one of the captains, and great. You know, Philly's a beautiful town. Great town. I mean, we all lived in New Jersey across the bridge in Voorhees. That's where the practice arena was, and but the Philadelphia, it was very surprising. I mean, for me, because you don't think it's you know, I had to go around the stairs, obviously with where Rocky ran the stairs, for sure, right? So, but yeah, speaking about fans, I mean, different type of crazy, you know, more about any hits or any fights, and I mean, they're just they go nuts. I mean, just for that stuff, right? So, yeah.
Over under 10.5 Philly cheesesteaks in your time there?
Oh wow, that's unbelievable. Yes.
How many?
Well, not every day, but
No.
Do you have a? I'm sure there's lots of places that like to say like best Philly cheesesteak in Philly. What was your go-to place?
Oh God! And well, in Voorhees, right by the practice rink. So there was a there you go. Players would go right after, and it was I would say I had that Philly cheesesteak about every third day. So I like steak, so it was good. Yeah.
Maybe that's like the Philly cheesesteak. It's legitimately like really good. It's not like an overblown thing. It is legitimately like superb.
Absolutely. Have you been? Have you gone there?
I have been to Philadelphia, and I've had Philly cheesesteak because obviously you're gonna have a Philly cheesesteak when you're in Philadelphia.
Absolutely. What else did you do there? What else?
We went to go see the Flyers and Oilers back in I don't know when it would have been, 2010 maybe, or shortly after their cup run maybe. And we saw the Liberty Bell, did all the cool touristy stuff. But yeah, that was pretty much.
You're on the Rockies first team, Matty B?
No, that was one thing we didn't do, and I'm still upset that we didn't.
Man, literally, when I went to Philly, that was like first thing we did. Like day one, we ran the stairs.
Absolutely. You didn't time it to go to a football game, or?
No, we went in.
Now there's an experience.
They weren't home at the time, so we didn't get to go see the football game. But I hear it's wild.
The fans, oh God, yeah, they would boo Santa Claus. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it would be a great place to watch football too.
So the next thing I kind of wanted to get into was in your post playing career, you spent a good couple seasons in the Czech Republic working as a conditioning coach. What brought you over to the Czech?
Well, when I retired, my passion was always training. I mean, I had some leg issues. I had to retire early it was a combination of, I mean, it was more chronic. I mean, I was born, but overtraining back then. I mean, I had no one, honestly, to help. I just trained with football guys and pump weights, and it's not like today. So I overdid it in some areas, and just learned to start helping pro guys, and I opened a place here in Edmonton for, God, I've been doing it for the last 25 years. I don't have a place anymore, but I had a place for 15, 20 years. And I trained a lot of Czech players. So a couple agents would bring their guys, and lots of good players. I mean, Shara, he's Slovak, but Shara came a couple of years when he was younger, 18, 19. Peter Sikora. I mean, I can Trinkata. Anyway, I'm not going to start naming them all here, but Martin Straka was another good one. They so Peter Sikora. I mean, they retired obviously, and then a lot of these guys, they buy pro teams and they're back in hometown in Czech. So Sikora was part owner of this Cometa, this team, and we were good friends. And over the years, because he would come train and stayed friends, and he said, "Hey, would you come help the team?" And one summer, and I'm like training, and it was time for a change, and I went, and I fell in love with the country. It was beautiful. I mean, Prague and Brno, where I was in Brno, it's like a smaller Prague. It's the second biggest city in Czech Republic. And I said, "Well, would you stay?" Then I stayed for like 3-4 years. Shut my place down here and went, and it was that's how I ended up going there. It really neat experience. I mean, you excuse me, it's a club, right? So the pro team owns all the team, like a soccer club, or they own the junior, midget, and pee-wee all the way down, and then all the kids aspire to play for the pro team. And not many kids play hockey there. People don't get it. And there's very few kids, one team of each, couple of the younger ones, and we all work together. It's really neat. I'll work with the coaches, and obviously with the older guys, with the bantam and up, where I started introducing some strength conditioning. We actually built a little weight room and attached in the rink, and really neat, really neat. I love the experience. Oh, emergency! Is your phone going?
Jake, is that your phone?
No, my phone's not going. I think it's Norm. Is it
That was
Norm?
mine.
Yeah.
Oh. Whoops.
Well, see, I might get one here too.
Oh, great, wildfire, great.
Mm.
So that's how I ended up going there, through players that I've trained, and there you go. I still go there. I organize hockey trips in Prague and Czech with young kids in the summer, and beautiful, great time, except for now it's been postponed because of this stupid COVID, and hey, what a fun time that is.
Yeah, definitely can't be
I
taken. Matty B?
I want to go back to a couple of years when you kind of first started kind of coaching and stuff. You coached with the Whitecourt Wolverines in the junior B ranks in Alberta. And a friend of the podcast, Gino DePaoli, was on the podcast a while ago. So do you have any good Gino stories?
Gino, oh my God, I haven't. How's he doing? Where is? Oh, he's with Okotoks.
Yes. Yes.
That's right. Do I have it? God, now you're putting me on the spot here. Not nothing that comes to mind except how much pizza he ate in the bus. He was a big man, It's like, but that's about no. That's funny. Good guy though. Good.
Yeah.
And now you spent a couple of years with Whitecourts in the junior B ranks. Then you went over, worked as a conditioning coach in the Czech. Now you're working with Spruce Grove in the Bantam U15 ranks in the Northern Alberta hockey. Is there any aspirations to coach? Are you just enjoying working with the younger kids? Is there any goals to coach at a higher level, get back to junior B or junior A, something like that, or just happy doing what you're doing?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, my passion's training. I mean, that's what led me to. I mean, I've coached 4 kids of my own, and I've coached every level over the past 25 years of hockey, from initiation to novice to Adam to Pee-wee to Then I coached for a few months junior A and the new St. Albert Steel, and then had a little issue with I'm not going to get into that with the GM and stuff, so I left, and then I enjoy working with young men, and I enjoy the coaching. I'm not going to say I do. I mean, I still do it. I coach, like you said, the pack U15 pack AAA in Spruce Grove with my boy, which is a blast. Spend time with my boy and coaching, and developing these young men, and it's a form. It's like the training. I've never trained younger. It was mostly pros and junior guys that I worked with, and then it just evolved to younger, like 16, 17, 15-year-olds. I just enjoy it. You can make a difference, and it's more work training a younger guy because they don't know how to lift or train, but it's rewarding, and it's same with the coaching. I mean, it's fun. I mean, you spend time, you don't know the results every time the puck drops, so you don't know the outcome, and it's you're always trying to win and trying to develop. And you got to find a balance of not winning at all costs, and it's about winning and developing and sportsmanship. And you learn so much. I mean, and through sports, So, I mean, let's be honest. The reality of a young 15-year-old making the NHL is, go buy a lottery ticket. So that's. So I have that I can try to relate to parents, which at that age are, some get crossed the line a bit.
Oh yeah.
You try, but I'm there for the kids, not the parents. So, yeah, there you go.
I wanted to throw with one little connection that Norm and I have too. I do some coaching and training myself. I coach some like spring travel clubs and stuff like that. 3 players from your U15 team last year, I've trained for about 3-4 years now.
Who's that?
Yeah, Jamie Reinhold, Dominic Flasha, and Josh Werzen. They've all played spring for me for years now.
Whitecourt kids.
Yeah, the Whitecourt boys.
Nice kids. Yes.
Yeah.
I
So
mean, we only had 4 games. Correct. I don't.
Yeah.
What a year! But no, I didn't know you. Okay, I didn't know you knew that.
Yeah. So I've sent a couple kids your way in the past. Obviously did something right if they ended up making that level. So.
Well, now I understand why they didn't know how to play defense. So
I'd argue if it wasn't accurate. But anyways, Norm, we've had you here for a good while now. I want to thank you again for taking the time to talk to us. We really appreciate it. You had some great stories. It was great hearing from you, and best of luck going forward with everything you got going on. And as always, stay safe, stay healthy, and yeah, thanks again for coming on.